Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast.
Today, we're joined by Ryan Quigley, the newly appointed CEO of Inisio, a $1.6 billion global commercialization partner serving more than 700 pharma and biotech clients. Ryan has spent the past 4 years as COO, driving innovation and growth across Inisio's 5 connected business units, and he now takes the helm to lead its next phase of expansion. In this episode, we'll explore his vision for outsourcing partnerships, the challenges shaping today's biopharma landscape, and what's next for the industry. Ryan, thanks for joining me. Before we dive into Inisio's strategy, if you could just briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Quigley. I'm the newly appointed CEO at Inisio. And as you outlined, or I've been on this journey for the last number of years as we formed this new company, Inisio, which is now the largest independent scaled commercialization partner for pharma. But probably previous to that, obviously, I have a lot of experience also working on the client side for a company like Inisio, where I spent parts of my career working with different life sciences companies like Zeneca, BMS, Pfizer, Abbott, and AbbVie.
Great, thanks for that. And can you tell us a little bit more about Inisio then, and kind of what value it brings to your pharma and biotech clients, and how the 5 connected business units sort of work together?
Yeah, at Inisio, look, it's a really, really unique proposition that we've brought to the market. We can really help our clients all the way from that phase 1 in their development process, all the way through to loss of exclusivity. So when you think about our individual business units, and the reason why we've set those business units up as independent business units is, one, that's the way that our clients buy and get organized themselves. So if I think about our medical teams are really able to help clients take their science, take their data, and help them disseminate that data into the scientific community, which really helps to shape the guidelines, the treatment protocols, what patients can really anticipate as the next wave of innovation to come to the market. And in the last couple of years, we've probably worked on about like 450 new novel mechanisms of actions that are going to really come into the market in the next couple of years. If you think then about our sort of second core team is really our advisory team today. And at Inisio there, we're really helping our clients to really ask those really big strategic questions in that pre-commercialization phase when they're getting ready to develop their market access strategy, when they're helping to really curate their go-to market cross-functional launch plans, and also when they're really looking to get the right type of market research or the right type of benchmarking data within the industry itself. If you really step forward then and get into that really pre-launch phase into the launch phase, which is critical for a lot of pharma. We all know that it costs about $2.5 billion to bring a drug to the market. And only about 30% of those actually succeed or meet their commercial goals when they get to the market. So our sort of third division is a team which we call Inisio Evoke. And really there, we're really helping around that sort of marketing capability. What are the right channels? What is the right way to really activate and translate that science pretty much into a promotional activity, into your promotional campaigns that really drive the adoption to those new medicines that you're bringing into the marketplace. And then our fourth division is what we call our Inisio Engage. And that really is, if you think about any pharma company and its in-field team, so all those stakeholders they've got to meet to promote their medicines overall, we really help those clients by helping them with their sales force, with their MSLs, by their meetings and event activity overall, really on some decision optimization, how they can make better, insightful, and quicker, faster decisions to help accelerate their commercialization journey overall. And we help them, again, obviously, with a lot of med info services and things. So everything that helps them to engage with the scientific community, we help. And then the last division we have is our biotech team. And our biotech team is really where a company like Inisio, we offer a lot of services. We bring a lot of scientific expertise. Sometimes our biotech or SMID clients, those smaller, medium-sized clients, don't have the same internal resource infrastructure. And there we really put as a sort of single point of contact in Inisio, where we can really help them understand this is the question they're trying to solve in the market. This is the innovation that they're trying to bring. And we can really connect the dots across Inisio to really bring that value proposition to them in a very unified and agile manner to really keep up the speed of what they need to bring to market.
Great. So you've been COO since 2021, helping to shape Inisio's growth strategy. Now as CEO, how different will your focus be? And what are your top 3 priorities for the next year?
Yeah, look, our focus has been, if you look into what we really deliver today at Inisio, like we're working with about 700 different life science clients across the globe. We work with all the top 20 pharma companies. We work on many of the world's biggest blockbusters. We work on probably 1 and 2 every newly approved FDA products that come to the market, which is there. As I said earlier, we work on lots of new science as it comes to the market. So we've worked like on 450 new molecules as they come into that sort of development into the scientific communication phase for our clients overall. And I think my focus, first of all, has got to be we're a very, very new company in the market, okay? And we operate in a very fragmented marketplace where there's lots of different providers who probably don't have the same breadth and depth of experience as what Inisio has. So I think for us, there's a real strength in uniting the scientific expertise that we have and uniting the capabilities that we have across that full development cycle to really help our clients accelerate their launches and to accelerate the way that they bring that science to the scientific community itself. So obviously we're going to continue to drive that part of our strategy to make sure that we keep, driving more impact for those clients that we work with today, and obviously bring a lot of new logos into the suite as well. On top of that, I think the second thing that's going to be a really core priority for me is obviously around our people development. The two things that are most important to the cornerstone of Inisio, one is the clients that we serve, and the second is the people that serve them for them. And again, I think what we have in the company today is a really unique blend of not just people who can deliver services, but the type of scientific expertise that we have in the company is second to none. If I just pick in our medical team as an example, we have about 750 PhDs who work within our medical team overall. They bring a breadth of scientific expertise across all therapeutic areas. And again, we're getting that opportunity to really see, what new science needs to bring, what really good looks like into the market. So we want to continue to develop out that scientific impact that we can make for our clients. Science is moving quicker and faster than it ever has before. And we obviously want to lead at the forefront of that. And then I think the third sort of area for me as a real priority is obviously we've got really good capabilities in the company on our data tech and AI solutions overall. I think it's a really exciting time as we look into the AI developments that are happening overall. And I think for us, our approach is very simple. It's one which is it's human plus AI. And we think in that formula itself, we can really get to a place where we can drive quicker, faster insights that allow our clients to be more agile in how they put their commercial go-to-market strategy together, and how they also get feedback from the market in a quicker, more efficient way to make that next best decision to actually really help them on their commercialization journey. And the last thing is we want to obviously have an environment, and I think this is probably the most important one for the people that work in Inisio. Under my leadership, I want to make sure that people really feel that they've got a workplace that they can come that inspires them. One of our core commitments is that we really empower everybody within the organization, but at the same time, I want to have a place that people can really turn up here and do their best work when they're with us on the journey in Inisio.
Absolutely. So 700 clients, it's a big number.
Yeah.
How do you keep individual projects from kind of becoming just a number, and how do you make sure each client kind of gets the focus and priority they need?
Yeah, look, that's an absolutely brilliant question. And again, even when you look into not just 700 clients, when you look into many of our big pharma clients, we support them in multiple therapeutic areas and in multiple products, okay? And if you look across Inisio today, we have that expertise across over 1,000 different products where we supported clients on in the marketplace. But every product in this market, the science is slightly different, the label is slightly different, the go-to-market strategy is slightly different. And every single product, if it moves from being 700 clients we work with to 800, 900, 1,000, it is still a bespoke offering every single time that you get in the organization. We put dedicated resources in behind those teams. We make sure that the client really gets to understand, we really understand what the client is trying to achieve within that therapeutic area to really maximize it in. So look, I think for us, it's got to be about there's a real benefit in size and scale and connected capabilities to bring a lot of new innovations. But at the same time, we look at our clients all the time as a one by one, because every product and every piece of data that comes to the market is slightly different all the time. And you've got to start at that starting point.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned people and your team is really important to you. What types of talent are you investing in most heavily right now? And then more broadly, what type of talent and skills do you think will be most critical for pharma and biotechs to succeed in the coming years?
Yeah, I think, again, if you look into the type of services that we really bring to our clients overall, I think the first thing is, like 95% of our business is focused on innovative pharmaceutical products. So you're going to have a really high scientific caliber and scientific expertise all the time. And that's what differentiates, I think, Inisio from a lot of different people into the marketplace. And sometimes even our really big and well-established clients that may be in multiple therapeutic areas may do billions of dollars of revenue every single year. When they step into new therapeutic areas, they can call to a company like Inisio to help them with that scientific expertise. We can really help them step in to understand therapeutic areas that they may not have been active in before. So I think obviously that scientific expertise is key. I think the second thing that's really, really key for us is how do we really, sort of continue to augment the offering that we have with more integrated data tech and AI solutions. As I say, the life cycle for commercialization of products has potentially got shorter if you look into things like the Inflation Reduction Act. So now you need to make those launches more impactful, more successful all the time. And I think then when we look across our strategy, like today we operate in about 50 countries on a global perspective. We operate pretty much in all the tier one markets that pharma needs to launch into. And also for the smaller biotech companies, they may have a presence in one jurisdiction and not the other. We can really connect those capabilities for them. But again, I think the expertise that we can bring is understanding those really small detail in each of those tier one countries and connecting it into a global strategy that really allows those companies to get better acceleration into their product launch. Like the data is the data, like 3 to 4 launches meet their commercial goals. I think if for companies that work with Inisio, I think we're going to bring a higher probability for them to meet their commercial goals. We work on more product launches every year than most pharmaceutical companies do over a period of time. So I think it's that, it's I always put a little bit, if you're going to go to get surgery, you want to go to the guy that's doing it quite a lot, not the guy that's doing it once. So I think in Inisio, you get that muscle strength of people that are sort of a launch powerhouse in the market today and bringing that additional capability. And I think the last thing that we are is like we've got that super speed and agility to really get things done. So if we see an opportunity in the market for our clients, we'll work with them and we're able to really move from idea to execution to impact pretty quickly. And that's going to be something that's really important to us as well as we go forward.
I see, interesting. And so let's talk a bit more about data and tech then. With digitalization accelerating, what areas of technology and data should pharma and biotech leaders prioritize to stay ahead in outsourcing and commercialization?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that pharma actually has today is that there is so much data. Okay. And I think the first thing that you need to really do is get in behind and organize the data. How do you really, put that data in a way that you can capture the true insight from the data? I think as well, you've got to have the capability to be able to assess that data and not really understand what does it mean for me in real time so I can make differences in there. So for example, I'm going to give an example of one of the services we provide today is a service through one of our Inisio advisory business called STEM. There we do a benchmarking exercise. We've assessed over 3,000 sales forces in the market. So we can sort of really sit down with a client, assess their sales team, and then we can actually give them benchmark data to what really good looks like into the market. Traditionally, that operated over a sort of an 8 to 12 week cycle to do that review because it took people to go out with the representative in the field to observe the call, and then you brought the data back in. This week, we've just launched out a new initiative called STEM.ai, where we've really revolutionized that business now, where we can actually take the insight from the sales call in real time, and we can obviously provide back pretty much in real time what was the outcome of the sales call, what were the sort of core messages that were being communicated, what were the objections from the physician around the data that maybe was presented in the call, what were maybe some of the competitive challenges that were coming up in that call. And getting that in real time allows pharma to be able to adapt their strategy quicker, faster, and better. And if there's any corrective actions that need to be put into their strategy, or if there's more doubling down on the execution of a part of their strategy, we can help them make those informed decisions. So that's just an example. And across all of our businesses, we're taking a very similar type of approach to really look at the foundational parts of what we deliver for clients and really looking about how do we use AI to make our decisions quicker, faster, and more efficient in the way that we deliver for client.
Interesting. Let's go back to sort of pharma manufacturing and outsourcing decisions. With rising costs, regulatory pressures, supply chain constraints, all these sort of complex challenges. From your perspective, what is the biggest challenges procurement and outsourcing leaders face today?
Yeah, look, I think there's two things. I think you got to start with what are the challenges that pharma is facing first. Okay, there's been a lot of uncertainty in the market right now, from tariffs, and we get tariff agreements, and we see different announcements, we see different pieces that come after those agreements. We've seen a lot of movement through obviously things like the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. We've seen movements around 340B reform. We see movements around the most favored nation pricing dynamics that are coming through. So if you're sitting in on the pharma side today, from a client perspective, there's a lot of uncertainty that's there for clients right now, and that is probably where the CEO or the CFO is really sitting down with the commercial leadership and medical leadership, and really trying to assess where do we play, how do we win in this market, and what is the sort of shaping from how we really go to market, and from the sort of pricing, the access, and the type of commercialization of those medicines. So there's been a lot of the strategic discussion, I'm sure, in the C-suite and many pharma companies on those pieces. I think where that creates the opportunity, that challenge, and the pieces that they work through creates a massive opportunity for a company like Inisio, is I think we bring a size, scale, and a flexibility into strategy. So just to keep it very simple again, a lot of clients would have traditionally preferred to have, their sort of core sales teams maybe in-house like that. And the ability to be able to ramp up or scale those teams based on how the market evolves is probably not something that was very easy to do. Once you take in that sales team and you've made that investment, it's a huge investment to do. Working with a company like Inisio, where you can actually outsource your sales team to us, I think we can do it leaner, more efficient, and it gives more flexibility into the P&L for a lot of our clients. So I think some of those dynamics are really helping, and I think clients are now reassessing how much of the resource should I take in-house, okay? Or how much can I actually work with a company like Inisio to really give me that flexibility to execute my strategy, and really give me the agility to move the resources to where I need to make the impact the most, the quickest, and the fastest in the market. So I think for us, the change in uncertainty has probably put a lot of noise into the marketplace, but it's also opened up a lot of opportunity as well. And we've also seen, for example, we have really nice businesses within our advisor business like Putnam, where we're able to support a lot of clients on a lot of those market access challenges that they've now facing globally as well. So I think for us, we're seeing people really come to us to try really think through those scenarios that they're going to face, and at the same time making sure that they take the right shots on goal and put the right investments in their base P&L, and you continue to use providers like us to really help them get that flexibility and agility in the strategy.
Yeah, interesting. Have you had clients come to you then with problems around tariffs and reshoring yet, or is there still sort of uncertainty there?
No, I think again, if you work into where pharma is playing, the operations, which is really the manufacturing capability in pharma, tends to be a very standalone functional area within pharma. So we haven't had a lot of client engagement in relation to should they set up a manufacturing facility in the US, yes or no, on the tariff side. Where we are really working very actively with clients right now is through navigating through the sort of major reforms that we see from the Inflation Reduction Act. That's on, obviously some of the pricing dynamics, but at the same time, the Inflation Reduction Act obviously had changes in, the patent that you get on a biologic versus on a small molecule. We do a lot of work to help clients understand, the therapeutic areas that they should play in, the indications that they should play in, the type of formulation that maybe they develop in the market. So we've worked with a lot of people there. There's obviously a lot of work going through now in most favored nation. Again, we've got market access capabilities across the globe where we're able to help people really understand the dynamics across different markets, and probably to help them in how they move forward on their pricing strategy as MFN becomes clearer in the next days, weeks, and months. And the other place then as well is obviously from the way that clients bring products to market today. Obviously your phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 data is key, but increasingly we're seeing a huge interest and need for a lot more real world evidence, HUR data, to support what can be very complex health technology assessment questions across major markets, to really assess what is the value that society should pay for medicines. And we're also seeing a lot of opportunity there. So again, we've got lots of places that we can help on, but specifically on the tariff and should they have a manufacturing facility and put their API into the US, we're not spending so much time on that.
Okay, absolutely interesting. And so with all these emerging challenges, we often hear partnerships between CDMOs, biotechs, consultants, and other players are becoming increasingly important. So looking ahead, which kinds of cross-industry collaborations do you think will matter the most for sponsors trying to accelerate development and commercialization?
Again, I would say in our own space today, in the commercialization space, it is a super, super fragmented space. And I think Inisio is again, we put down larger scaled commercialization partner with that sort of breadth and depth of expertise. So in our space, our focus has pretty much been on how do we get that more connected capability to really help our clients. I think one of the first things we've seen is probably 3 to 4 years ago, our clients bought the services in a very fragmented manner. I think one of the pieces now is clients try to really navigate through some of the challenges that they have. They really want to get that more strategic, trusted partner where they can go to get multiple services in multiple different ways across. So we're seeing more consolidation come into the industry, which is a positive tailwind for a company like Inisio. And I think as well, what we're sort of seeing, what we haven't experienced so much is too much. We don't really connect that strongly with the CDMO or with the CRO. And again, it's because they're very much different buyers within the pharma companies for us today. The CROs is pretty much your research and development, clinical development budget, which is a very different budget than what we operate in. And also from a CDMO perspective, it's probably more back into the early stage on the operations group around the manufacturing facilities and the sort of more core supply chain capabilities. So we're not actually seeing that convergence of those pieces together. Increasingly though, where we will continue to explore is obviously, companies that can really help us to maybe further accelerate on our data tech and AI strategies are places that I think there could be good partnerships in place. And yeah, although I have to say so far, we've been very successful at organically building a lot of that capability ourselves. But in those spaces are areas where I think you will find new players and you'll find new collaborations and new partnerships in the future. And people that probably we don't know as a competitor today or a potential collaborator. There's going to be a lot of new emerging capability and companies in this space in the next 5 years. So look, we're excited to see what comes in that space and we're open to collaborate if it can bring us greater impact for Inisio and greater impact for the clients.
Great. And so I know you work across multiple therapeutic areas, oncology, rare diseases, diabetes, obesity. Demand is constantly shifting. So where do you see the strongest growth opportunities emerging?
Yeah.
And how should partners adapt their capabilities?
Yeah, look, I'm going to reference out to if we all went into Evaluate Pharma, which is a really nice way of just categorizing the different therapeutic areas. There's probably like 14 therapeutic areas. The really biggest growing areas are oncology, still into immunology, dermatology. And then if you sort of go into that sort of obesity, gastro space, obviously from the GLPs is a really fast growing area itself. But beyond those three core areas, each of the other areas also has really unique and interesting growth as well. Okay. May not be at the same size and scale as oncology, which is the biggest, but it will still have a lot of potential for growth, a lot of new scientific assets in there, a lot of high unmet need. So I think from an Inisio perspective, we got to be focused on the breadth of the therapeutic areas. And that comes from the scientific expertise that we have. As I say, just looking at our medical division as an example, to reinforce that 750 PhDs where we can support across all. But if I look into the really, really big three areas that I described there, the first one being oncology, I think in oncology, you're going to see areas like multiple myeloma really grow very, very strongly in the next couple of years. There's a huge amount of unmet need in oncology. The science is moving really, really fast in there. And again, I see a lot of opportunity for a company like Inisio to really support clients in that space. And our experience in oncology is super, super strong. So any clients that need to get support there, they should reach out, and I think we can help them really, really well from the assets that we've helped bring to the market for clients today. The second area I sort of see in there is in around obviously that gastro obesity space, particularly on the obesity. Everybody's very aware of where the GLPs are. Obviously, a lot of big companies, Lilly and Novo, have the lion's share of the market today, but there's a lot of interest and movements from companies like Boehringer Ingelheim. You've seen Roche, you've seen Pfizer, you've seen AbbVie, and there's many more we could name start to move into the space. So I think the core indications are going to become super competitive in that space. And also that probably brings good access opportunities for patients as well in the space as well. But beyond the core sort of diabetes, obesity indications, there's a lot of really interesting developments in behind the GLP mechanism as well. Like you're going to see indications with diabetes that move into early Alzheimer's disease. You're going to see there's NASH indications, like there's sleep apnea indication, there's cardiovascular indication, there's renal indications that are coming. So I think in here in this space, we're actually not just looking at a product that we all think of today, probably from the obesity perspective and diabetes, but you're actually looking at something that can really transform the way the patients really can manage multiple comorbidities from that core indication. So I think there's going to be a lot of growth in that space. And then I think the third sort of area is immunology, which is close to my heart after spending a lot of my career working on a couple of very big immunology assets. I think the immunology space, again, it's a super scientific, super competitive market. Um, but the amount of innovation that's still coming in that space and the amount of clinical unmet need that still exists in there beyond the huge blockbuster products that have already turned up to serve patients in that market, it's going to be a really high growth and very competitive area as well in the next number of years. So look, across all the areas, there's opportunities for growth, but they're just a couple that I would call out.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about GLPs. So from a commercialization perspective, what does it take to kind of move GLPs from kind of just obesity to then, expanding to Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I think the first thing it's going to take is obviously there's probably some positive early signals in data from the data that's been published so far that will give confidence that those new comorbidities or comorbidities where these mechanisms of action can really turn up and make an impact for patients. The first thing that's going to have to really happen is the phase 3 studies are going to have to deliver. If the phase 3 studies turn up and you get the right type of data, I think there could be really interesting advances for these patient populations that, again, today, there is absolutely huge unmet need for these patients. So again, it's the business of science. We got to see what the science tells us. And if the science is really strong and from a data perspective, I think it's going to open up a huge amount of opportunities for there. So we need to see the science. I think then from an access perspective, obviously the number of patients that can benefit from these medicines is absolutely huge. And the question for us all in society is how do you pay for this, and what's the right type of data reimbursement model, go to market strategy. And that story is still to be fully told, I think, in this landscape from GLP. And obviously, as more competitors and more mechanism of action come into the market and new entrants come in, I think as well, competition in that space is always good to actually open up access and to drive more access for patients themselves. So that competition could be a good thing there. And then I think the third thing that you're going to see in that space is, I think then for companies, and this is where I'm very excited about it as well, many companies, the firepower in the difference between these type of medicines are not just secondary care medicines. They're not just those specialist focused medicines. You're going to have to go out and reach to a very large target audience. You're going to need really clever marketing, omni-channel strategies, different types of ways of reaching patients and reaching physicians. And you're also going to need to have probably very different size and scale in sales force than what pharma probably has had in other specialist therapeutic areas in the last number of years. So I think in there for, again, a company like Inisio, we're super excited about where the science is developing in GLP. It's been super impressive to see what the companies have done so far who've launched assets into the market. There's some very clever, bright companies coming on their coattails to come in behind it. And we're ready to support on the commercialization journey.
Great. And you've launched blockbuster products and led global teams. So looking back, what lessons have been the most valuable to you in how you approach the industry?
Yeah, I think, look, I was very fortunate to spend a considerable amount of time in a company called AbbVie. Worked with that team very much from a global perspective in the immunology portfolio across, at that time, was commercialization of Humira, Skyrizi, and Rinvoq. Were three of the assets that I had the opportunity to work on. I think for me, the biggest lessons that I look back and reflect on is pretty much, you need to think as you're getting ready for launch through really good scenario planning. Okay. What you put on a page is never 100% what plays out. You need to go in with the right ambition, the right investment, But you need to be prepared for the unexpected into the market. You need to be prepared for different things that can pop up at the last minute. Let that be in your data, let that be in your regulatory pathway, let that be in your market access strategy, or let that be just from a competitive perspective where you maybe see a piece of data that's better or maybe not as good as what you anticipated to come through into the market. So I think you've got to have that mindset of not just that commercial focus to execute on the plan that you put in place, but also to think beyond what the different scenarios can play out for. I think the second thing that I would take in there is, and particularly after working on Humira, which became the world's biggest pharmaceutical product, I think in here it's about really making sure that you really have the ambition to truly maximize the benefit of that medicine for every single patient like that. In these large blockbuster products, people can get a little bit confused sometimes with a dollar value or what that brings, but the sort of North Star division has to be in every single indication, every single market where you can turn up and make a benefit for that patient. If you really stay focused on it, on that perspective, I think you will truly unlock the true value of what's there. And I think you've also got to start very, very early. Even though you work on a blockbuster today, yesterday you had to be thinking about what's the next one, okay, all the time. And I think, again, if I look back to my old company, AbbVie, I think they've been the masters at transferring through what was a really, really important product in the field of immunology and still is very important for patients today, to actually navigating the loss of exclusivity on that medicine to create a bigger, better franchise that actually changes patients' lives even better than what the legacy franchise did before. And I think there's a good case study in there. I think Harvard might write it up someday and share it with the rest of the industry. So, but I leave that to my ex-colleagues in AbbVie to do.
Great. So finally then, looking ahead, 5 to 10 years, where do you see the industry heading? And do you have any advice you'd share with the pharma and biotech leaders you work with to navigate these shifts?
Yeah, look, I think everybody is getting the ability to, I think AI has been a fantastic development for the industry overall. It's not something that's brand new into pharmaceutical companies. It's been deployed, particularly on the research and development side, for years, and it's increasingly helping people make better, smarter decisions. With still very important to have the human in the loop, but better, smarter decisions all the time. So I think for us, as we look forward through the next 5, 10 years, I think we're going to have this ability to even have the science move quicker and faster than before. And I think in that's going to just bring in so many new opportunities for the way patients are going to be treated for diseases. It's going to help us to find, those therapies that can really advance, the unmet need for patients like that. And like I look into probably the last 5 years to give us confidence on that. There are certain areas like HIV, for example, the therapies that patients have access today in HIV are just like, compared to today to 10, 15 years ago, it's night and day. It's revolutionary for these patients. In other therapeutic areas like HCV, for example, therapies that get 99% cure rates, and that are treatment rates that basically sustain disease. It's, in essence, it's a cure that you're bringing for these patients. These were diseases that you had to take multiple medications for before, and that were very complex for patients to think. So I think, with the advance and the speed at which science is moving at, I think the opportunity for patients and for us all to live a fuller, healthier life is just going to be phenomenal in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think for me, as the CEO in Inisio, I'm delighted to be in a company where we get this chance to work on all of this science, and we get a chance to partner with multiple different companies, let they be small, medium, or big pharma companies, where we get a chance to partner with them to really see that science come to the market. And in essence, make my life, your life, and everybody's life a little bit easier and better to do if we have to face up to any of these diseases in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks a lot for talking to me today, Ryan, and taking the time.
Thanks, Laura.